All right, we will jump back to the KVL with Lansing High School. The Lansing Lions are coached by Rod Briggs. Last year, Lansing went 25-0, 12-0 to win the KVL. You're 5A state champions. Let's welcome Lansing Lions and Coach Briggs.
Well, I'm just pleased to be here. Thanks for having this. It's first year I think we've done this. We've been able to come down here and do this, and it's a great thing. I appreciate all the things you guys do, your site and covering the games and so on. It adds some excitement to our league because, we're really just kind of on the edge of Kansas City, so we don't get covered as much. But anyway, our season so far, we haven't played yet, so we've been beating up on each other for 3 weeks. I think our guys are really ready for a game. They're probably tired of me stacking the deck against them in practice. We've had some really up and down practices, and I think I've learned a few lessons is, we've kind of had a well-oiled machine with a lot of experienced players and kind of knew the expectations and so on. So we've got some sophomores coming in and that don't quite know the effort level and stuff that we need. So I've been pretty tough on them the last few days, and knowing that, when the Bolts start flying next week, it's going to be pretty tough, or this week. I brought Trevor Young with me today. Trevor's a senior. He's kind of played behind some really good big men the last few years. Last year at this time, probably no one knew who Joe Lindway was, and he's having a great college career so far. And I think if I was comparing the two, Trevor is probably ahead of where Joe was last year at this time. And but he's got to develop through the season as well, like Joe did. And I brought Sam Lorenzon with me today. Sam's a junior who's going to be a really good player for us. He's grown probably about 4 or 5 inches since last year, and really good shooter, and is going to have a really good year for us. And we have 2 other seniors on the team, Christian Abbott and Kenneth Banks, who played a lot of varsity time last year as backups. In fact, Kenneth really came on at the end of the year last year, played some big minutes for us. After that, we're kind of a mystery. We're going to be playing some sophomores and that have some ability and a little bit of size, but right now we're just trying to figure out depth and so on. Until we start playing games, there's not a lot that we really know yet about what guys can do in a real game situation. I've got some guys I think they can fill in nicely for us, but until they actually prove themselves, we have no idea.
How much of an adjustment, style-wise, will you be from what you had last year, that much experience, and you got, big man here? Do you focus in a different area, maybe doing some different things on offense versus what you did last year?
We run the same system. We just had to tweak it a little bit, but I do think that with Kenneth Banks and Trevor Young, we have 2 really good post players that we can take advantage of, and hopefully Sam and Christian can stretch the floor a little bit. We're still trying to figure out who that 5th starter will be. Could be Josh Robinson or Jalen Douglas, who can step in and play some minutes for us. But our style's going to be similar, but we had some really good on-ball defenders last year, and I think Christian's a really good on-ball defender, but as all the coaches know, the way they're calling fouls right now in the league and what some of the games I've watched the last couple of days, you're going to have to stay out of foul trouble. So we've been really emphasizing our on-ball defense. Just keep your hands off, move your feet, really emphasizing on really good help defense, which we've always been pretty good at. And our defense has always been a scouting report defense as it is. So we get our concepts in here early, start playing games, and we start altering our defensive strategy based on who we're playing and their team and what they're good at. And offensively, we're going to try to play as fast as we can, but obviously we're not going to probably play as fast.
Sorry, I was thinking because you stole the question I was going to ask as well. But I thought last year you guys made your name basically on the defensive side. And I was going to ask from the offensive standpoint, who do you see stepping up this year to kind of pick up some of that scoring from Joe and Khalil and Zach and some of those guys?
If you look at our stats over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been really balanced. I mean, Joe averaged, 16 a game maybe? That's the most any kid's average. We usually have had 4 or 5 guys averaging in double figures or close to it. And I kind of see the same thing. Obviously, Sam will score, I'm sure, just because he can shoot real well. And he's going to be on everybody's scouting report, so he'll basically have somebody who is a pretty good defender on him. We know Trevor can score inside and Kenneth Banks can score. So I think we'll be really balanced. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a lot of guys averaging 8 to 12 points a game this year. Last year, with Zach and Joe scoring a lot, 16, 14 points a game. That was a little out of the norm, but we averaged around 70, so which is a lot in a high school game. So scoring will come from a lot of places, and we weren't that good defensively, I didn't think, early last year. I think we got better as the year went along, and I see this team kind of doing the same thing.
Trevor, talk a little bit about taking over a leadership role, from those seniors last year, what you learned from them and what you bring forward to this season.
Well, I learned a lot from my brother, Clay Young, who graduated 2 years ago, who was the senior on that team, senior leadership on that team. Then I've been watching Joe Schneider and Khalil and Dante and Zach. They're great leaders by example and also great leadership vocally, and just really trying to tie it all in this year. Communication, leading by example, and just showing out and doing the right things.
Sam, talk a little bit about how you guys have gelled, as a team with a lot of guys, coming together now that maybe didn't play as much last year. Talk about how you guys gelled as a team when we look at, off season, if it's through summer and fall, then going into your first couple weeks of practice.
It's been really tough. This summer, we had a good summer, just coming together as a team, playing well, getting a lot of people to play. And this first couple weeks of practice have been really well. Just playing hard every practice and doing what we can to get better.
So I've heard about you, I guess, in terms of you play over the summer. What team do you play with over the summer, and kind of describe your game a little bit? How would you describe how you play?
This last couple summers I've been playing with Mocam, but I now play with Run GMC. I'm more of a perimeter player, so I shoot a lot, and that's what I'm best at. And this year I'm just looking to get better and getting aggressive.
So Coach mentioned you grew a little bit as well. You talk about mainly a shooter. Have you made much change to your game now that you got a little bit taller? You still kind of hanging out in the perimeter?
Just being more aggressive, what I've been trying to get better at, driving more, drawing more fouls, getting on the free throw line. That's pretty much it.
And I could name a whole bunch of other stuff I've been pushing him to do, but we'll keep that.
So, Trevor, talk a little bit about maybe taking on pressure of, being a little bit more aggressive on offense if things kind of slow down a little bit with so many new faces. How do you go about, being more aggressive, stabilizing things when things kind of get going the wrong way?
Well, you got to centralize your offense, work from the outside in, then work from the inside back out. You got to share the ball around. It's not all going to be focused on one person. The scoring isn't. So, we'll have everybody in there getting their individual points, but as a whole, the game doesn't come down to individuals. It comes down to how our team performance is at the end of a game.
Coach, how do you handle this? Undefeated last year, state championship, a lot of new guys. What type of pressure, do the guys kind of put on themselves to kind of come back to be, have as strong as a year? And, what's that conversation you have with them as far as trying to live up to expectations of a previous class or year?
Well, not to make too much of a cliche, last year we just focused one game at a time and said, let's go 1-0 tonight. And that's the same approach we'll make this year. If we win or lose, our preparation doesn't change for the next game. And so we'll just continue doing that. And I'm sure there is some pressure. There's some standards to live up to, and I probably remind them of that quite a bit during practice when they start letting down a little bit. And, with a young team like what we have this year with some new guys that are pretty young, they think they're playing hard and they think that they're doing things the right way, and they're really not. And you just got to teach them that. And I remind them, hey, you got a lot of standards to live up to, and that's what we're looking forward to every night is, come out and play as hard as you can. But if we lose, we learn lessons and we come back the next day, try to get better, go 1-0 the next night, and that's all you can do. And, it's been a fun group so far. They've been interesting to work with because things have ran so smoothly over the last few years that it's kind of starting back from ground zero a little bit with some concepts that guys before just kind of knew. And so it's been a little bit slower, but it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
So, I mean, it would be unfair to, to try and repeat what you did last year with so many new faces. What are your expectations for this year? Do you keep them the same or just, keep them high, or where are you at with where you think this team can go?
Well, last year we didn't even talk about a state championship. We never even talked about it. And we took second the year before, and we just talked about just getting better. We're not going to be ever really deep, and we're going to have to learn to play the game in such a way that we can beat teams that are way more athletic than we are. We've just got to be better basketball players. We're not going to ever beat people just on pure athleticism. Even last year, there were a lot of teams that we beat were way bigger and more athletic than we were. We just got to execute, play good defense, play together as a team, and do the right things in practice and spend time outside of practice to get better, and get your priorities right and straight, because like last year, to be where we finished, the guys all had to be on the same page the whole year to do that, and so we strive to do the same thing. And then the last thing is we want it to be a great experience for them, and records should not play a part in, the type of experience you have, and the lessons you learn along the way, being with your friends and playing hard and doing something together is probably the most important thing. So, our expectations are always that. And our expectations as staff is try to make it a great experience for the players and teach them things so they can do well, outside of basketball.
Thank you.
Yep.